not very strong. It's a nice scent. It smells nice, doesn't it? I thought so. So it won't bother you. Perfect. Alright, my love. Grab one of these matches. Okay. This is honestly one of my favourite things to do. It's very strange, but I absolutely love lighting matches or striking them against this little bit here. Alright, got this flame here. Let's go ahead and light the candle before it gets to my finger bits. Oh my gosh, so silly, it's gone out. Right, let's try that again, shall we? Goodie for me, I get to do it twice. I hope that you've been well, my love. Quite a sound it makes. Now let's air it before the flame goes out again. I'm afraid it might. There we are. Blow that out. Okay, we've got it going. Now lovely, I suppose before you start falling asleep, I shall read to you. Feel free to close your lovely eyes, okay? My love, my love, my love, my love, you are just something absolutely special. I hope you know this and you understand your importance in this world. You truly are light, and I'm so thankful to have met you. Yes, I absolutely adore you. You are lovely. Such a star. Alright, enough flirting. I suppose I should read to you. Although, who knows if you can really call that flirting. Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. Sense and Sensibility. Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility, edited with an introduction by Ross Pallister, with the original Penguin Classics introduction by Tony Tanner. Penguin Classics, an imprint of Penguin Books. Alright, let's go ahead and find the first page. It's got quite an introduction, and this is a novel in 3 volumes, and the first volume, volume 1, chapter 1. The family of Dashwood had been long settled in Sussex. Their estate was large, and their residence was at Norland Park, in the centre of their property, where, for many generations, they had lived in so respectable a manner as to engage the general good opinion of their surrounding acquaintance. The last owner, but one, of this estate was a single man who lived in a very advanced age, and for many years of his life, had a constant companion and housekeeper in his sister. But her death, which happened 10 years before his own, produced a great altercation in his home. To supply her loss, he invited and received into his house the family of his nephew, Mr. Henry Dashwood, the legal inheritor of the Norland estate, and the person to whom he intended to bequeath it. In the society of his nephew and niece and their children, the old gentleman's days were comfortably spent. His attachment receive, and the cheerfulness of the children added a relish to his existence. By a former marriage, Mr. Henry Dashwood had one son, by his present lady 3 daughters. The son, a steady, respectable young man, was amply provided for by the fortune of his mother, which had been large, and half which devolved on him on his coming of age. By his own marriage, likewise, which happened soon afterwards, he added to his wealth. His wife had something considerable at present, and something still more to expect hereafter from her mother, her only surviving parent, who had much to give. To him, therefore, the succession to the Norland estate was not so really important as to his sisters, for their fortune, independent of what might arise to them from their fathers inheriting that property, could be but small. Their mother had nothing, and their father only £7,000 in his own disposal, for the remaining moiety of his first wife's fortune was also secured to her child, and he had only a life interest in it. The old gentleman died. His will was read, and like most every other will, gave as much disappointment as pleasure. He was neither so unjust nor so ungrateful as to leave his estate from his nephew, but he left it to him on such terms as destroyed half the value of the bequest. Mr. Dashwood had wished for it more the sake of his wife and daughters than himself or his son, but to his son and his son's son, a child of 4 years old, it was secured, in such a way as to leave to himself no power of providing for those who were most dear to him, and who most needed a provision by any division of the estate or by any sale of its valuable woods. The whole was tied up for the benefit of this child, who, in occasional visits with his father and mother at Norland, had so far gained on the affection of his uncle, but such attractions as are by no means unusual in children of 2 or 3 years old. An imperfect articulation, an earnest desire of having his own way, many cunning tricks, and a great deal of noise, as to outweigh all of the value of all the attention which, for years, he had received from his niece and her daughters. He meant not to be unkind, however, and as a mark of his affection for the 3 girls, he left them £1,000 apiece. Mr. Dashwood's disappointment was, at first, severe, but his temper was cheerful and sanguine, and he must reasonably hope to live many years, and by living economically, lay by a considerable sum from the produce of an estate already large, and capable of almost immediate improvement. But the fortune had been so tardy in coming, was his only 1 12-month. He survived his uncle no longer, and £10,000, including the late legacies, was all that remained for his widow and daughters. His son was sent for as soon as his danger was known, and to him Mr. Dashwood recommended, with all the strength and urgency which illness could command, the interests of his mother-in-law and sisters. Mr. John Dashwood had not the strong feelings of the rest of the family, but he was affected by a recommendation of such a nature at a time, and he promised to do everything in his power to make them comfortable. was rendered easy by such an assurance, and Mr. John Dashwood had then leisure to consider how much there might prudently be in his power to do for them. He was not an ill-disposed young man, unless to be rather cold-hearted and rather selfish is to be ill-disposed, but he was in general well respected, for he conducted himself with propriety in the discharge of his ordinary duties. He had married a more amiable woman. He might have been made still more respectable than he was. He might even have been made amiable himself, for he was very young when he married, and very fond of his wife. But Mrs. John Dashwood was a strong caricature of himself, more narrow-minded and selfish. When he gave his promise to his father, he meditated within himself to increase the fortunes of his sisters by the present of £1,000 apiece. He then really thought himself equal to it. The prospect of £4,000 a year in addition to his present income, besides the remaining half of his own mother's fortune, warmed his heart and made him feel capable of generosity. Yes, he would give them £3,000. It would be liberal and handsome. It would be enough to make them completely easy. £3,000 he could spare. So considerable a sum was little inconvenience. He thought of it all day long, and for many days successively, and he did not repent. No sooner was his father's funeral than Mrs. John Dashwood, without sending any notice of her intention to her mother-in-law, arrived with her child and their attendants. No one could dispute her right to come. The house was her husband's from the moment of his father's decease, but the indelicacy of her conduct was so much the greater, and to a woman in Mrs. Dashwood's situation, with only common feelings, must have been highly unpleasing. But in her mind there was a sense of honour so keen, a generosity so romantic, that any offence of the kind, by whomsoever given or received, was to her a source of immovable disgust. Mrs. John Dashwood had never been a favourite with any of her husband's family, but she had had no opportunity to the present of shewing them with how little attention to the comfort of other people she could act when occasion required it. So acutely did Mrs. Dashwood feel this ungracious behaviour, and so earnestly did she despise her daughter-in-law for that. On the arrival of the latter, she would have quitted the house for ever, had not the entreaty of her eldest girl induced her first to reflect on the propriety of going, and her own tender love for all her 3 children determined her afterwards to stay, and for their sakes avoid a breach with their brother. Eleanor, the eldest daughter, whose advice was so effectual, possessed a strength of understanding, a coolness of judgment which qualified her, though only 19, through the counsel of her mother, and enabled her frequently to counteract, to the advantage of them all, that eagerness of mind in Mrs. Dashwood which must generally have led to imprudence. She had an excellent heart. Her disposition was affectionate, and her feelings were strong, but she knew how to cover them. It was a knowledge which her mother had yet to learn, and which one of her sisters had resolved never to be taught. Marianne's abilities were, in many respects, quite equal to Eleanor's. She was sensible and clever, but eager in everything. Her sorrows, her joys, could have no moderation. She was generous, amiable, interesting. She was everything but prudent. The resemblance between her and her mother was strikingly great. Eleanor saw, with concern, the excess of her sister's sensibility, but by Mrs. Dashwood it was valued and cherished. They encouraged each other now in the violence of their affliction. The agony of grief which overpowered them at first was voluntarily renewed, which situation in the future. Eleanor too was deeply afflicted, but she could struggle, she could exert herself, she could consult with her brother, could receive her sister-in-law on her arrival and treat her with every proper attention, and could strive to rouse her mother to similar exertion and encourage her to similar forbearance. Margaret, the other sister, was a good-humoured, well-disposed girl, but as she had already imbibed a good deal of Marianne's romance without having much of her sense, she did not, at 13, bid fair to equal her sisters at a more advanced period of life. My love, rest well, sweet, sweet love. I will save our place for the next time. For the next time. I hope that you have sweet, sweet dreams, and that you are easy on yourself and you care for yourself. Be sure to eat well, and to hydrate is very important. Close your eyes, and dream very lovely dreams. I thank you so much for being here with me, and I was so delighted to see